Truth Seeker and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the Truth Seeker podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at truthseeker.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, Truth Seeker.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Truth Seeker. This is the Truth Seeker podcast. I'm excited and delighted to be with you guys again. Got an awesome show planned for you all. Before we go any further, just got to say thank you to everybody who is supporting my work via Patreon. You guys supporting me helps me to continue to bring content at a full-time rate now. I'm doing this full-time, doing the music and podcasting, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So everybody supporting at patreon.com/truthseeker. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. And if anybody wants to support there, you get exclusive content. You get my entire discography to download there. You get all my new music that I'm working on a new album entitled Seer, which is almost done. And every track that is done is already up at patreon.com/truthseeker. Bunch of cool stuff over there. So thank you guys for supporting my work there. Today's show I'm excited about. We're going to get into some things that I've been studying a little bit. You guys know that we talk about divination a little bit. We talk about using tarot cards. We talk about tea leaf readings and casting of lots, which it's called in the Bible and stuff. And so I mentioned on my Facebook wall a couple weeks ago that I had used tarot cards during a prayer session for somebody, and it was awesome. It was powerful. Like every card that I drew was for the person in the situation that they was going through, and it led me on how to pray for that person and to what spirits were on that person. Very intense, and it was my first time using these cards. And it's essentially it's a Christian tarot deck because it's a deck that's themed after the Bible. It's called the Tarot of the Most High, and so it was really awesome using it for the first time. But when I posted about that, I got a lot of people curious, and a lot of people like unfriending me and saying, okay, now you've done it, you've gone a little bit too far. We always knew you were kind of leftist and you're kind of out there, but now this is a little bit too far. You're using tarot cards to pray for people. Like where does this match up biblically? And so I've been doing a study on it. I'm going to bring that study out soon, but all throughout the Old Testament and even the New Testament, the disciples used forms of divination, and so the casting of lots. And so the scripture says that every lot that is drawn is of the Lord, and they would use that as God says go left or go right. They would use divination. They would the luck of the draw, and they would believe that this was God speaking to them. And so all ancient cultures did this, and including the Hebrews mentioned of in the Bible. So I got a teaching coming out very soon where I'm going to go into a lot of detail on how you can actually track this stuff in the Bible, and the Bible doesn't demonize it at all. Very interesting. So today's guest contacted me after seeing the episode that I did with James Gilliland, the most recent one, and I guess he's someone who follows James's work. He really enjoyed the episode, and he has developed his own form of divination, if I'm correct. So we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of play on words here where you're able to do automatic writing or take the spelling of someone's name. And it's very funny how synchronicity works, because I have a friend who just got into something very similar where she's able to get a lot of information just by writing your name down and understanding the letters. So I'm interested to see how this show is going to coincide with the information that my friend Christy Lee just got with the name spelling and getting the divination through that way. So welcome, my guest, Jim Gerard. How you doing, my brother?
Hey, Derek. Thanks for having me on. It's really an honor.
Welcome to the show, man. You reached out to me a couple weeks ago, sent me an email of some artwork that you did. The artwork was phenomenal.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you about a reading that I did for someone else, but your name came through the reading.
All right, let's go. Let's jump right into it. I'm curious about this.
Okay, yeah. What I do is I throw lettered dice. I get 26 of them. I throw them 5 times. I get 130 letters, and then I decode the letters into words and sentences. So I have been doing some readings for Orly Forth. She's got some videos on YouTube, and she's got a Facebook page. I had been doing some readings for her, and in this particular reading, her name came up, and then a name, Kara, came up, Kara. So I wrote to her, and I said, "Who's Kara?" And then she wrote back, and she said, "It's Clara, with an L." So I went back through the letters, and when I found Kara again, there was an L next to the K. So Clara was spelled Klara, which is, it's acceptable because the pronunciation is the same. So then she told me that Clara's last name was Blackwood. So I went through the letters once again, and I found Blackwood. Okay, so now I had Orly Forth, Clara Blackwood, and then I found the name Rosemary Stellick, who's a martial artist out in Toronto. And so I had this reading, I had just done, I was just finished decoding it. And then I heard from you, got an invitation to be on the radio program. And then I went through it again, and I found Derek Brosker.
Out of 100 and how many characters? 38?
130 letters.
Okay, what do you think that means?
Well, what it means is, this happens all the time. Like a day before I find out about somebody, their essence or their energetic signature registers into the reading without my knowing it. And then the next day I find out who the person is, and I look back on the reading and find their name spelled out letter for letter.
So it's essentially like synchronicity, but it's almost like confirmation that you're supposed to maybe move forward with this person, reach out to this person, these type of ways. Is that how you're actually applying it to your life?
Yeah, it's that, and it's also a telepathic signature entering before I find out who the person actually is.
Something like that, in a lot of other things that we've seen with, like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with, like, 9/11 and the towers on all the dollar bills, right? The 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100. They all show the towers under attack. It's all written on the money, and stuff like that comes to light after the fact. Like, there's no way, before that you can actually get the information and maybe stop it from happening, or if it was done by coincidence or just through synchronicity and not actually planned, like somebody artistically put it in there, which I think if we're talking about the higher power or energy, I think that's a creative energy that could have put it in there as well to line up with that. So what you're talking about is something that you can only get the messages after the fact, like once you heard my name and then you found it, or does it work the opposite, where you get the messages and then look it up, or is it kind of vice versa with the art that you're doing?
It kind of works in a multi-dimensional sort of way. Like, this thing about people's names entering into the letters before I meet them, that happens. And another thing that happens is when I decode the letters, I get predictions of the future. So it kind of goes both ways.
So how are you able to look to the future for some of this stuff? Let's say if you get a name or a word, are you just like maybe looking up the words and seeing their origins, what the words mean, if it's a person that you're supposed to reach out to, or you know what I'm saying? How does that work?
I usually don't focus too much on the future unless I have a specific question about the future. Like I've done readings before where I get a message from my future self, like from the year 2065. But what happens a lot of times in the readings is there could be a prediction of the future in the reading, and I might not be absolutely certain that it's a prediction until like several days later it happens, and then I remember that it was written out in the reading, and that's how I realize it.
So how is this how was this something that you actually started applying to your life? Like, how did you get involved with it? Is it something that you just tried? Did you see different people who are doing, similar readings or something like that? Or was it just something out the blue?
I got the idea from the Bible code.
Yeah. That's funny. Somebody just messaged me before we went live my opinion and take on the Bible code, and then here you go bringing it up. And I haven't heard that term in years.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm not surprised you know about the Bible code, because I know your story, how you're kind of in a dark place, and then you went to Christianity and became transformed, and here you are today. So, I was wondering if I could just tell you the whole story about how I invented the method.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so there were some videos on YouTube where these researchers were trying to prove that the Bible code was a hoax. So what they did was they took Moby Dick and they ran Moby Dick into a computer program, and they said, we're going to scan through the letters of Moby Dick, and we're going to ask questions, and we're going to get predictions and all this other stuff. And, sure enough, they got answers and they got predictions. And so their conclusion was that the Bible code was a hoax because they did it with Moby Dick. But my take on what they did was that if you had thousands of letters that you could access, all you have to do is just get the letters. So my next question was, how do I get the letters? So I went to a CVS store. I found 5 regular dice, and I took them home. I worked out a number code. 5 dice equals 30 numbers. So I had to add A, B, C, D to the 26 letters of the alphabet to get 30. And I would throw the 5 dice like 18 to 20 times and get roughly, 80 to 100 letters, and then decode the letters, and that's how I started out.
And just started decoding the messages from that, right?
Yeah, it was kind of a long process because I had to figure out a letter for each number of the dice. And then I found out about boggle dice. I went to a flea market and I said, do you have Scrabble? I figured I'd do it with the Scrabble tiles.
Yeah.
And he pulled out a box of boggle and he said, oh, I don't have Scrabble, I get boggle. I said, what's that? And I looked at the box and it was dice that had letters on them. So, I felt like I was in seventh heaven. I mean, here's the dice with letters already on them. And so I went with boggle dice. And then years later, I found out about Campbell's alphabet dice, which are much smaller, less expensive. And what I'm doing now is the people who want to learn this method, they buy the dice, they do the dice tours at home, they send me the letters, I decode the letters, and I send them the reading.
I've seen that too, because you actually have it on your on your Facebook. You've got some pictures. Like, I guess when you get these letters, you write everything down. So you got a tablet with this letters all over it, and then you just start decoding after that, right?
Right. So, you can look at the letters and you can try decoding yourself. Most people have a hard time with it because we're not really educated in the United States to really be thinkers. So, when it comes to things like that, most people don't gravitate towards, spending a lot of time trying to figure out putting words together and things like that. But some people have a knack for it.
Yeah.
And I've taught the method to dozens of people.
That's awesome. So do you do consultations and stuff to take people under your wing to kind of teach them how to do it as well? Yeah,
it has to be done through Skype or Zoom or some form of video chat, because if it's just email back and forth, that kind of tells me that the person I'm dealing with doesn't want to talk to me personally, and it just kind of makes me feel like a pet psychic,
Yeah.
They're just using me to get readings, but once we talk on Skype, it's really much better because I can answer their questions. And like right now, there's a girl out in Colorado, and she's got the dice. So, if she invites some of her friends over, and if they want to get readings, they can do the readings, and then I can talk to them on Skype, and that's kind of like how the system works.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way when people try to have conversations through text message. I would just rather have the phone conversation and or on Skype as well versus corresponding long messages via text or something, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to send a text message to your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's in the other room. You're going to go talk to her.
Yeah, yep, that's true. So, I mean, what I'm saying?
And, people are getting to the point now, married couples and, they're sending text messages to each other, and they're sitting right next to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
that's crazy.
It's pretty evasive,
it's totally
man.
Crazy.
This whole technology thing, and a lot of people are scared about it, man. Where we're headed with this technology, and I used to fight against it, man. Even though I would use it, I would fight against it because I understood that it was mimicking spirituality. It was mimicking the stuff that we're already able to do with our brains, and we're already connected. And then here's social media connecting us when we're already connected spiritually. We can feel when each other is going through a hard time, when we're dealing with stress and under the pressure. Like, you can feel that when you're around people, what I'm saying, as far as whether you're empathic or whatever. And then social media is connecting you, so you know everything about each other in that way. But it kind of I guess we lose connection with the spirit and how we're connected that way, because nobody, I don't know, just like I think people care a lot less now, and they feel like, as far as being social, like you get your social interaction through social media versus go and have a drink with someone, or going out to dinner, or having someone over to your house, and you keep up tabs with people online without even having to contact them. You know everything they've been doing all week,
right? But
they have no idea. They haven't heard from you in ages. It's very weird.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly it. I mean, my feeling right now is that the glue that holds us together, that bond of trust, the human race has had that since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of lost that. And I think we have to try and bring that back somehow.
Yeah, I think we can use technology to do that. I think we have to use technology. We look at the good that it's doing. It's allowing us to do a video chat and broadcast live over the web, and then people to able to come and actually download this episode on their smartphone, and years later people will be able to listen to this conversation and get inspiration from it, and knowledge and wisdom, and maybe build up their intrigue to want to kind of do some of the things that you're bringing to the table as well. So like there is the, you know what I'm saying, the good aspects of it as well, but we can't lose our humanity in the information age and in the technological age, which, you know, the whole thing with Kali Yuga, they say that man would use technology to fight against God, and whether it's literal or spiritually, we definitely see it happening spiritually. You know, this whole thing that using technology to kind of move us away from our godhood, our gut intuition of being empathic and moving in miracles and psychic abilities and things like that. All that stuff is like being turned off or whatever. It's still there, but it's dormant, and people don't know how to access it because, you know, we're just consumed with television, technology, all of this stuff.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I've given it a lot of thought, actually, you know, what you're talking about as far as, you know, people, you know, the human condition that's happening right now. But I kind of a conclusion about that, too. And I really think that there's something inside of us, like some form of goodness or like a light or something that is inside of us that penetrates through all of these sort of layers of dysfunction that we have on the outside. And that eventually, you know, somehow we're able to get that light out into the open and penetrate those layers of dysfunction.
I agree. I think we see that happening a lot. So people are coming into like the newness of technology and, like I said, using it for good versus for evil, because I mean it's just simply a tool, like we talk about. Even with like the God-given abilities that we're born with, people can use those tools for, you know what I'm saying, negative purposes, and you can channel energy, you can channel entities, and people are using that to channel demons, right? But then other people are using it to channel freedom of expression. They're channeling the Holy Spirit. They're praying to God when other people are praying to demons and stuff. So all of this stuff is essentially tools, and it's up to the person on how they want to use it, the intention of the person. With everything, with divination, with technology, people can use technology for bad. There are people out there stalking children, you know, using Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. Like it's all up to the individual.
Yeah, you know, I really liked your story a lot because, you know, you kind of went into the pits there for a while and in a really dark spot, and then you kind of woke up and, you know, Christianity came along, your life became changed, and, you know, you got your life back on track. But, you know, the thing I liked about it the most, I think, is the open-mindedness and this sort of, this spectrum of this knowledge that you have about all these various things.
Yeah, I think they all coexist. I don't think that anybody owns them. I don't think that the Mayans own Kali Yuga. I don't think that Christians own speaking in tongues. I think that they're mentioned in every religion, in every holy book, and they're just, you know, these different things that we have within us. Spirituality. Nobody owns that, and it doesn't matter the terms that you put on them. It's just whatever's comfortable for you to use, but you have to move past that. It doesn't matter if we're talking about divination. That scares people, especially church people. And like the funny thing is, there's a lot of Christians who are listening to this program. Like they vibe with it because they know my background. They know that I come from like a biblical perspective to teach it. But when you hear the word divination, like that's scary. It's like the word occult from a Christian perspective. We have these words that we stay far away from, and one of them is divination, astrology, these type of things, because they're taught a certain way in the church, but they're not taught this way in the Bible. And so when I bring that to the table, there's a lot of people who feel the same way, and it's awesome what's happening right now. There's just like an awakening. People coming out of religion but they still have their faith, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to forsake your faith to come out of religion, which means to bind and to hold back. You could be set free and find freedom and release to be sent out into the world, instead of confining yourself within a box and in your belief system and your parameters and making sure they match up with everybody else. And there's beauty in that, man. There really is.
Yeah. There's a saying in the Tibetan religion. It's called a heightened reality. And the way that they describe it is like, after you die, your consciousness goes into a place that's kind of like the point of no return, where you're looking at reality as it really is, but you can't go back because you've lost your physical body. But you can reach that state of awareness while you're alive in a human body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you go to a funeral, let's say, a relative has just passed away, and you see all these people sitting there, and they're not joking around, they're not having a party, and they got this real sort of gloomy look on their face. That's the heightened reality. They're actually in a form of enlightenment, in the sense that they've now realized that their relative is gone, and they can't change it, and they can't bring the relative back.
Yeah, it's a scary place, or it can be a scary place, put it that way. Especially like, because you can reach those states through meditation. You can reach those states through, Kundalini yoga, psychedelics as well. I've been to that place, and it was funny because, like, coming out of that place, and even trying to refer back to the Bible, the Apostle Paul talks about leaving his body. Well, he says it was so real, he don't know if he left his body or if he took his body with him. But he said he was caught up, raptured up into the third heaven, and he's seen things that are not even permissible to speak about. There's no way he could describe it, and just trying to describe the things that he's seen in that realm, he would sound like a madman. Trying to, even I'm looking at some of the pictures behind you, the shapes and the geometry and the colors and stuff. And it's so beautiful, and the colors speak. It's just, you go to a place where everything's different. There is no carbon matter. There's no physical material, but yet it's still alive and beaming with life. But they don't look like people, or they don't looks like smoke and colors. It's insane. So to try to come back and explain it, the Apostle Paul said, "Look, I would be amiss to try to explain what I've seen. Like, I've seen things that only the angels get to speak about."
Yeah, that's right. The thing that really scares them is the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's what the word occult means. It means hidden.
Yeah.
And, the ones that have the occult hidden knowledge, people are starting to find out they're the ones who are running the show.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that have the knowledge, and they're running the show. And they have the power and the money, and they're manipulating weather and minds, and they're doing all these things. It's because they have the occult knowledge. And they've programmed society to be terrified of anything that's occult or hidden or divination or tarot or whatever you want to call it. Most people are terrified of that because it's the unknown.
Yeah, it's the unknown, but there's like an empowerment to it as well. It's like they don't want you to know. I guess the people who are over religion for the most part, or over the government or schooling or whatever, they want you to be reliant upon them, versus knowing that, hey, you can tap into God by yourself. Like, you have that God-given right to tap in to the supreme power and connect. You don't need me.
That's right.
You can go you know what I'm saying, before God yourself. And that was the whole thing with the Catholic Church and the Reformation and stuff. It's like you need a mediator between God and man, and you don't need that anymore. It's for us. And so to understand that, there's tools to tap into God, to tap into the spirit realm with entities and vibrations and feelings and all of these things, which are our God-given right. You didn't do anything. I mean, I think a lot of people remember these feelings when they was a child. Like, they had these experiences when they were children. And so it's just like a reawakening. It's a revival. It's nothing new. It's something that's very old. The ancients knew it, and so it's a revival of the things that we already have. It's nothing new. I don't think we're developing new gifts. I think all of this stuff is within us because we're fearfully and wonderfully made, as the Bible says. And I truly believe that. And it gets deeper and deeper. So that part of awakening is just awakening to who we are already. We don't need nothing outside of us. It's already within.
I really think that you found the real essence of Christ and God and the real meaning of the scriptures, what those words really mean. Because if you didn't understand what it really means, it wouldn't have changed your life.
It all essentially means love. It's all it means. Everything. And it's all and Jesus even said that. He said that all of it, he said all the law, all the prophets, all of this stuff, we can get really deep in it, and history or allegory or whatever. He said all of that hangs upon love. Like, if you're not walking in love, then you're not fulfilling any of it. But simply loving your neighbor and loving your creator, then if you can do these two, you're fulfilling everything. All of it else don't mean anything as long as you're walking in love. And we see that. Somebody had me on a show. I was talking to a brother earlier about this as well. Somebody had me on their show a couple years ago, and it was like a new age show, and she knew my past and stuff, and I think she was setting me up to kind of make this person look bad. But she said that one of her Baptist friends sent her a message and said that Jesus was the only way, and that you need Jesus to get to God and to get to heaven and things like that, and Jesus was the only way. So she asked me my opinion on that. I don't know if she wanted me to kind of mock it or laugh or whatever, but she said, okay, True Seeker, what would you say? This Baptist person tells me that Jesus is the only way. What would you say? And I don't know what kind of answer she was looking for, but I said, I would say they're right. Jesus is the only way, because Jesus represents love. Jesus is love made manifest. Love is the only way. His name isn't Jesus, so let's get that straight. It's not like we're calling upon the essence of this man. When we're calling upon the name, it says, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. The name is the character. The character is love. Yeah. A provider. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it's about. All of it. Yeah. All of the doctrines and what separates me and makes me different, that's for you. That's just for you. That doesn't unify anybody. That's just for you to kind of have a one-up over somebody, or what you learned, or what God has privileged towards you. But this is free. The Bible says freely you receive, freely give. That's what it's about. It is about love, man.
Yeah, I became a born-again Christian in 1970. I had an amazing night vision just a couple of weeks after that happened. But over the years, I really ran into like a lot of Christians that were finger pointers, and they were very judgmental, and they was just very one-dimensional in their thinking. So I kind of gravitated away from Christianity, and I wound up reading a lot of the Krishna books, and I got really interested in that because I was already, leaning towards being vegetarian, and they were vegetarian. And I thought, wow, that's really cool because they're living the philosophy that they're teaching. So, I wound up really getting into Krishna consciousness.
And a lot of it, but you wouldn't know that unless you studied it, right? I got exactly. somebody who's going to be on the show in a couple of days. He's going to be talking about universal salvation and pretty much how Christ died for everybody, and so there is no one up. And he posted something on his page where he said that you don't recognize how many people own the same car that you own until you buy it. You go out and you buy this car, you want this car, then you start seeing that car everywhere. Well, those cars have been everywhere since the beginning. Those cars have already been out there, but your consciousness has changed and the things that you're conscious of, and you're able to see it more. And until you go through different things in your life, until you're privileged, I guess, with information and knowledge, whether you start reading other books or dealing with people who believe something differently than you, and you say, you know what, we're not that much different after all, even though this person is someone who reads the Bhagavad Gita, or this person does read Manly P. Hall or occult material, but this person is closer to God than many of the people of my own sect. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one thing that opened me up to realizing that, look, God is not a respecter of persons, as the scripture says, you know, and you find out that it's true. It's just we don't know how. We only interpret it from what we know. Like we read the teachings of Jesus or whoever. It doesn't even have to be Jesus, but we interpret it off of what we know. And until you do the research and show yourself approved, like your realm of understanding is only going to be so big until you've lived and you know. You say, you know what? Now I know what he's talking about. There's stuff that we've read 10, 15 years ago, but we finally understand it now. We've been reading this stuff our whole life, you know. Right. It didn't make any sense until we had the knowledge and experience to apply it to.
That's right, yeah. You know, I grew up Catholic, and then later I became Christian, and then I became, interested in Krishna consciousness. I really get into that in a big way. Like over the years, I read a lot of Krishna books. So, once I got on the internet, I really started, watching a lot of videos to get opinions about what people were thinking. And there's a lot of, I think, mental platform kind of things and a lot of opinions. And not everybody knows exactly what's going on out there. But the thing about the Krishna books is, if I ever have some kind of question or a doubt about what they're talking about on the internet, I just go back to the Krishna books and I reread them, or I rethink about what I learned, from those books. And that's where I get my reference point as to, where I'm going to ground myself in some kind of conclusion.
And it's not that much different. I remember when I first started reading some of the teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, and so there was a thing we would do, and it's a big ministry. There's a ministry out there, a Christian ministry called Our Daily Bread, and it's basically little devotionals that you read to start your day. And they're little Christian devotionals. They give you a passage to read, and it breaks it down and gives you a story, and then how you apply it to your life type deal. So I would read those Christian devotionals, and then I would get some of the Krishna devotionals, and I'd read them, and it was like the same thing, and they were teaching the same thing. So it was so beautiful to see what I already believed, what I've already been studying, put in different words. Like, it's the same spirit, the same essence behind it. They would just word it differently. I can understand it. I don't get offended. I don't claim to be right. So therefore, I could see it. And it was so beautiful. But I found out, like, you can take the same thing that the Bible teaches. You can take the same thing that Jesus taught, like the same words, but just rearrange them a little bit and teach it. And the Christians want nothing to do with it if it isn't said just like it's written in the scripture. It could be the essence, the spirit behind it. They don't care. It's demonic to them if it's not written the same way. It's not truth to them. But truth, if it's truth, it's universal. It applies to everyone and everything, the positive and the negative. For it to be legit, the positive and the negative has to coexist.
If I'm talking to someone who's a Christian, and if that person's heart is in the right place, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's a Hare Krishna devotee. And, the Christian that I'm talking to is thinking, oh, he's talking to a Hare Krishna, but he's thinking, oh, this guy's a Christian.
Until you tell them, and then they're like, oh, then they, it messes everything up, Yeah,
but, devotion is devotion,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's what it's about. I mean, And the scripture said that God is not a respecter of persons. And the scripture says in the book of Acts, he said that it says God will deal with all men as long as they'll repent, as long as they'll turn from their sins, they'll turn from the things that are killing them. And there's instances upon instances, even like Acts chapter 10, dealing with Cornelius. This was a Gentile man, but by nature he was doing the stuff that's written of in the law. And God said, look, I'm going to deal with this guy. I'm going to use this guy and show these Jewish, stuck-up, proud Hebrew guys that I'll deal with anybody who will separate themselves. And that's to this day. And he had to show those guys in the book of Acts and in the Bible. And it goes for us. And then it tells you at the end of that story, call no man unclean. Call no man unclean.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter race or creed or what you believe. It's about your fruit. Judge a person by their fruit.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What is their belief system producing? That's what it's about. And the churches and stuff that I come from, they judge you by your doctrine. They don't judge you by your fruit. And Jesus said, judge by the fruit. And ever since I started doing that, like that's been a good way to judge a person's character is judge the fruit and the actions and the company they keep and see what comes from that. And you can't fake it. And Jesus said that an apple tree is not going to give you an orange. Like just hang around that person long enough and you'll see if what they believe has any validation by their fruit. And that goes if you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, Hindu. That goes for everybody across the board.
Yeah, about 20 years or so ago, I really developed a strong liking towards people that were kind of like, doing the left-hand path, into like the darkness thing and, into, Satanism and Luciferianism and demonology and magic and shamanism. I developed a huge interest in all of these things and started studying, everything I could get my hands on. But I really liked these people because they weren't finger pointers and they weren't like going around announcing that they were Satanists or Luciferian or into witchcraft or whatever. And they just seemed to keep to themselves. And, you'd never know that they were into that unless they told you.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I've really kind of reached out, in the past couple of years especially, to try and reach out to the ones that are into that kind of lifestyle, because the kind of divination that I have is very good in the sense that it's a supplement to what they're already doing.
Yeah. It is. So
in other words, they don't have to stop what they're doing or change what they're doing.
Yep.
And they can use this divination system, like before they make a decision to do something like magic or sorcery or whatever. They can do a reading and get some insights on what to do or what not to do.
Yep. That's the thing with it. Like all of this stuff is just simply tools. The divination is a tool. Like if you're using divination to contact demons and try to put hexes and spells, like that's possible as well. But you're doing it for the you know what I'm saying, the bad reasons or to cause harm on somebody. That stuff's gonna come back to you. It's going to. But those same resources, the same tools, if you use them for good, good's going to come to you and good's going to come from it. It doesn't matter what it is. It goes for everything across the board. It's the intention. It's the whole Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. There's a grace there. That's what grace is. But it's for those who know what they're doing and they're deceiving people and they're causing harm on purpose. That's where it gets dangerous, and that's where the judgments and all of these dealing with these other type of entities come into play, when you're doing it intentionally to deal or cause harm on someone. People do it.
Are you familiar with Orly Fourth? Are you familiar with Orly Fourth?
I'm not.
She does videos, and she kind of shows the way that she does evocations. She's really good at kind of explaining how she does it, and she's very personal. And I really like the way she approaches it, because I'm still kind of like a novice. I don't do the evocations myself. I just don't have it in me. But I'm interested in these things because I like knowledge. You know, I'm like one of these knowledge junkies, you know.
Yeah.
I want to learn about everything. I just have to know about everything that there is, you know. And then if somebody comes along that's like really brilliant in intelligence, I go crazy because it's like, you know, they're smarter than me and I can't follow what they're saying. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. And I think there's a lot of people who, you know, who are the same way. And that's what, like, people like to listen to conversations where people are talking about experiences, whether it's experiences with ETs or something that like physically manifested. We're not worried about your doctrine too much anymore and what you believe and what you can prove and stuff like that as far as like the written text or whatever. We're like, we want to see something. We want to see that what you believe has substance to it. And people have experiences. People have dealt with entities and aliens and UFOs and all of this stuff. So, you know, we want to kind of get into that stuff, and people love to hear stories because it kind of validates what they believe, you know? Like people, I mean, we're not forcing anybody to listen to this conversation. But it's going to get a lot of listens, a lot of views, because people are resonating with it. People are hungry, people are searching, and it's something that we're talking about that is resonating on a universal level with everybody, with Christians, Jews, Hindus, Muslims, all the same. It's an eclectic bunch. It's a bunch of different people, and it's universal. We're talking about the tools. It always goes back to that. But I want you to talk a little bit about your artwork, because that's the first thing you sent me. You sent me this awesome picture that you I guess you drew and colored as well, and it was awesome about ascension and contacting ETs and dealing with that. Talk a little bit about your artwork too.
Okay, written on the wall of a pyramid in Egypt is a prophecy or prediction saying that at the end of time, the Pleiadians will return to Earth. Are you okay with this idea of the end of time?
I'm okay with any idea. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool because I think, you know, in general, most people know what you're talking about when you talk about end times or, you know, like in 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar happened in December 2012. And then what happened was we went into a new cycle of, you know, time sort of reverted and started going in the other direction. So anyway, written on the walls of the pyramid in Egypt is this prophecy that says at the end of time that the star gods will return to Earth, which is right now. We're at the point now where, you know, the public knows that, you know, they've been holding free energy technology and all kinds of, you know, secret space program stuff, and there's a lot of things that they're not telling us, and that, you know, ETs have been here on Earth for thousands of years, and they sort of crossbred with us, and, you know, all this other stuff is all kind of coming out as part of the, you know, like in the Bible, it's called the Book of Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's referred to as the unveiling,
mm-hmm.
Ascension, you know, the
apocalypse,
shift,
yeah.
you know, apocalypse, Armageddon, 5D.
It's an actual covering as well, apocalypse. So to kind of reveal is to uncover.
Yeah. Right. You know, I think the main thing here is that revelation really means waking up and becoming self-aware.
Yeah. I think so too.
You know, if you're not waking up and if you're not becoming self-aware, you know, I think a lot of people are sort of, they're looking externally and they're looking at all these things that are going on in the world, and they're sort of, you know, creating a view of themselves by looking at external things. But that's not happening at all. Those external things is not who you are.
Yep. It's funny too when you read it or read the book of Revelations. It's all symbolic about, like you're saying, things that are happening within you. I mean, the whole Bible is that essentially. It's this allegory of your own spiritual journey, your own spiritual process that we all go through from Genesis to Revelation in a way that it talks about Jesus coming back to rule and reign in the temple. Well, before Jesus left us, what did he say? Yeah. He said that you are the temple. And so Christ coming back to sit on the throne is your heart. Christ coming back is Christ in you, the Holy Spirit to come to live within you and sit upon the throne of your heart, and that Jesus essentially is out walking amongst the people when you go out, and you're walking in Christ consciousness when you're being a manifestation of Jesus. And then it talks about like the prophets of the Old Testament was always looking forward to this new covenant that would come, and Jesus was the fulfillment. And it said the mystery of the gospel is Christ in us, the hope of glory. That you are the light of the world. You're the hope out there for a dying world who have no idea which way is up or down, but you have the illumination of Christ to go out into the darkness and to illuminate the world. Christ in you. That's him. As far as my doctrine and my theology, Christ has already come back, and he lives within me and each and every person who confesses him. And that's a spiritual encounter. It's not just theology. Like, that's a spiritual encounter, and it's tangible. It changes the world around us. It's the real deal.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing I think is happening now is I think for the first time, maybe in hundreds of thousands of years, that the polarity that we're in, the duality that we exist in, is collapsing and disintegrating. Mm-hmm. And, maybe that's why they're putting all these labels on it, like, the event, ascension, and the shift, and 5D. I mean, half the time I don't know what they're talking about because
they don't have the time. They don't know what they're talking about.
They don't. They're trying to get a perspective on what's happening and who they are and where they are. And there's a place out in Costa Rica called Rivnia, and what they're doing is, you go there for a week and you take ayahuasca, and they give you massages and get to meet people and have fun, and you have the experience. And what happens is you find yourself as a result of taking this medicine. And I think a lot of people should go there and just, start from somewhere. Like,
it's a good place to start.
Get back to square one.
Yeah,
find out who you are first before you go around talking about all these concepts that you don't even know what you're talking about. It's all it's all mental platform.
Yeah.
I mean, after a while, I don't even know what these people are talking about when they're talking about ascension.
Yeah, in order to find...
what is ascension?
And to me, like, my mind goes back to the scriptures every time, man. I'm sorry, but that's just how my mind works. Yeah, Jesus talks about you have to die in order to truly live. Like, you have to die to the ego. You got to have the ego death. And the ayahuasca, the psilocybin mushrooms, the near-death experiences, like, all of that stuff is part of it. Once you die, you give up yourself and you understand what's real. It's not about fashion. It's not about how much money I got. It's not about this and that. It's not about who dies with the most toys wins. It's about love. It's about loving God and loving people and helping people out. And you know what I'm saying? Making your brother and sister's journey just a little bit easier, man. Those who are having a hard time kind of dealing with these emotions and energies and heartache and things like that. That's what it's about. And you have to die to truly live. I mean, that concept is it's not just in the Bible, it's in all the holy books, Yeah,
like right now we're having a conversation and a dialogue, and we're talking on the internet. We're having an experience. But, you can't take an idea like having an experience and sell books and DVDs and make a living on something that's based on an experience.
Yep.
It has to have some sort of like fireworks behind it.
Yeah, it does.
it has to be some sort of grandiose label on it, like Ascension and 5D, and a lot of these people think that say, aliens are going to come down and save us or something. A lot of people believe that.
Yeah, and I find it funny. I've been behind the veil, man. I've seen some crazy stuff. I've contacted the aliens, the angels, whatever you want to call them. I've seen them do aerial phenomenon and let me know they're out there. All types of stuff that a lot of people probably will never experience. Like, I got to see some stuff only because my heart desired it. I think if you want it, it's there for you. So I'm nothing special in that regard. Right, but I think if you want it, you can have that stuff happen as well. But most people don't want that bad enough. They would rather, get a good night's rest, instead of being outside stargazing for 6 hours. And so I've seen a lot of stuff. And these other people, but I can't tell you exactly what's going on. And some of these other people who I'm sure they haven't done the work that I've done. I'm sure they haven't done. They've got it. They've got books. They're telling you, I'm talking with the Arcturians from Sirius, these beings from Sirius B and the Orion Council of Light, the Galactic Federation. This is who they are. I don't know how they're getting this information, whether they're trying to channel it or they're making it up or what. I have to call BS on a lot of this stuff. I really do.
Yeah, the idea I have right now is just very basic and simple. Just, bring back the glue of, trust and brotherhood and friendship. And, I'm trying to do that through this, introducing this divination system, because there's a certain point where when this system starts taking off and it starts working for people, what happens is there's a certain type of telepathy that happens, which is higher self to higher self telepathic communication.
Mm-hmm.
And something like that can only happen through trust and friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens with, maybe something like that is just me. Maybe I'm mad that I don't have more information that I feel like I should, after having these encounters and stuff. Maybe you can get the information from these beings. Well, I don't know, but from my experiences, it works a lot differently than people say. It's not as easy as people make it out to be from doing this, but it is about doing the spiritual work yourself and transcending spiritually over your own ego, over your own fears and doubts and unbeliefs and judgments and stuff. And I wanted to kind of reiterate too what you were saying about how it has to be your own revelation. We talk about this too because it's not, you don't just take somebody's word for it. See, like the Western Christianity, and I have friends who are big on evangelizing and street preaching and things like that. They go out there and they try to beckon people to come by taking their word for who God is. Hey, I had this experience with God. When I was 14, God visited me and changed my life. And that's good. Like, that's their experience and encounter. But they want them to kind of like stop at that. Like, okay, let me believe this man's gospel and follow this man or go to his church or whatever. But it should be like a beckon for you to encounter God in your own way. That I had an encounter, and so can you. Come get to know God for yourself. I think that's what it's about. And dealing with the spiritual giftings in the Bible and the psychic abilities and things like that. It talks about Peter dealing with Simon in the scriptures. And they were casting out demons. They were healing people and having revelations and all types of stuff in the Holy Spirit. They would lay hands on people and they would transfer the energy, and the Holy Spirit would engulf them and they get born again. And it was called the baptism of fire. And Simon seen that and he wanted to buy it. He said, "Oh yeah, come here. How much do y'all charge to teach me how to do that?" And essentially we can put it in a book and give it to you, right? That's the same thing. Okay, I wrote the steps down in a book. This book is $14.99. Buy the book and you'll learn how to do what I just did. No, he rebuked them. He said, "No, this comes by supplication alone. There's no way that you can learn how to do this." They rebuked him, and he went away sad. But essentially, it's showing those that want to take the shortcuts and don't want to have the encounters. They want to take a short, and you can't take a shortcut. You can fool people, You can't fool God. You can't fool your own conscience. And when you had to put your head on your pillow every night and close your eyes, and you had to go to those realms and be with the Creator, and you know if you're deceiving people, you know if you're leading people astray, and you have to do the work. There is no shortcuts.
Yeah. That's why I really like these people that are into like the dark arts and stuff. Are you familiar with E.A. Coetting?
No, I haven't heard that name.
He's got this website called Become a Living God, and it's basically magicians and sorcerers, and I'm kind of interested in what they're doing. I've bought a couple of his books, and I've been studying it. But like I was saying before, I'm really trying to reach these people that are into those kind of arts because they already do divination, and it's something that would help them, but they don't have to change their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. It would be easier to reach those people than finding someone who is brand new to any of those concepts. And then you have to deal with, in my case, a lot of Christian people who demonize those concepts because that's what they were taught, to demonize what they don't understand. So that's what I'm doing. I'm reaching out to people who are in, all of this stuff. I have people who deal with every religion or belief system under the sun, and I don't have to convince them. Back in Christianity, I had to convince you. Like, it was my goal to win the conversation and win you over to my belief system. I don't have to do that. Like, your belief system is your belief system for a reason. You've experienced things differently than me. You've come to a different conclusion. That's okay. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong or you're wrong. It just believes that we're looking at the same thing a little bit differently.
If your heart's in the right place and they're around you and, they feel a certain something, some kind of an energy or a vibe or something, a good feeling, and then they find out that you're a Christian or you're a Bible reader or something like that, they'll just automatically start reading the Bible on their own, or they'll go to church. They'll see it in you and realize, that's what I want.
That's what it's about. Yeah. That's what it's
about. But if you go out there and you start pointing your finger and start telling them, you're going to burn in hell and all this shit, forget it.
Yep. It kind of works both ways too.
They're not stupid anymore. Mm-hmm. They're not stupid anymore. They know what's going on.
Well, I think that's something that only will only last for so long. Like, I have people who look up to me. I have people who learn from me and stuff, but they're not under me. They're walking with me.
Right.
And we're learning from each other. I'm learning just as much from this person and their journey as well. And there's a longevity there. Yeah. If you promote yourself as a teacher, or as not a teacher, but as someone who's lording over people, once they find out that you only know so much, or they find somebody else teaching something different, they're going to leave you. They're going to be gone. Like, I've seen them come and go. I've had people who are into Christianity, and then, even in something as small as them, they want to, drink or do drugs, they cut off all their Christian friends because you guys are demonizing everybody. You can't walk with them there. So, but to let them know that, look, I'm with you. Like, I don't lord any knowledge over you. I'm not your ruler or whatever. Then I think that we can walk together and have longevity with a friendship, right? And that's what I'm seeing happen. And the people I'm involved with, it's just it's a genuine friendship. It's a genuine concern for their life, wanting them to just to learn at their own pace. Because if they, once they figure out, or they're like, what, I don't believe in aliens no more, Truth Seeker, I gotta leave, or whatever. There's people who are gonna see that. But if you're a friend and you're sticking with that person, I think we have friends till we die. I think there's people that when the Bible says you find a friend who is closer than a brother, I have those friends in my life,
Yeah. If you're not the real deal, they'll sense it. They'll go elsewhere.
Well, only for a time. If you're tricking people, it's only for a season. People are eventually gonna grow up. They're eventually gonna, come out of it. You'll keep some people longer than others. Trust me. I've been a part of many different sects. I've been a part of all of them. And teachers who have charisma, people who are copying off of other teachers, and they got followers and they got money and all of this stuff. Like, I've been a part of all that stuff, and it only lasts for a season. Every time the rug comes from up under them. Just study cults for a minute, and what happens when these people start communes and they start having relations with the women who are part of the group and stuff. All of these, you can name them. I mean, there's so many of them. They all fall apart, you know. And there's people who are there's cults still to this day, like the Jim Jones stuff, you know, all of that stuff. That's still happening. Like, I know those people. I know people who live in the woods who have a following, and they live in the forest, you know, and they have taken a vow of poverty, and that's what they teach that everybody should. And they're like homeless people living in the woods who have a cult. Like, I know those people.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some advances in technology that's really going to help us to sort of, you know, resonate with all of these changes that are happening, like on an energetic level. Like for example, they've got a cloning technology where they can take a piece of flesh from a cow, let's say, and they can clone 1,000 pieces, and then the cow doesn't have to be slaughtered. So, you know, I've been vegetarian for more than 30 years now, and I stopped eating animals in 1970. So, you know, most people are meat eaters, and they don't want to stop. So now this technology is coming in. And what the technology does is it allows for these animals to continue living, and they're not being hurt, really. They're just taking a small piece of flesh, and then all these people that want to eat meat, they just continue doing it. There's no slaughtering of the animals.
Mm-hmm. Technology,
so
I think
some of the solution is technological. I think is part of the solution, but you know, from an awareness perspective, you're responsible for your own awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You're the
Technology is
one
coming
that
a
has
long
to
ways,
wake yourself up.
and we're about to see some stuff come out that it's going to blow a lot of people's minds. It already is what we already have. But they just gotta get it just a little bit at a time. Like, I remember it used to be crazy to have a device in your house that can hear you at all times. I've got a couple of them that Alexa, you know, those apps and stuff. You can ask it any question. You can talk to anybody who has an Alexa app, and it's crazy. They have to market it to us to get us ready. If they was just to implement all this stuff, we'd freak out. But we want it. Like, people want others to know what they're doing, right? So there's this thing where, like, hey man, the government's spying on you. Like, people are so hungry for fame or just to be somebody. They want to post their every move on Facebook. So it's not like you got to hide something. Like, they want people to know what they're doing. So for them to have a device in their house listening to them, that's something exciting, you know. Somebody's interested in them, you know. They're not lonely anymore, or whatever the case is, man. It's very interesting how it's just done slowly but surely over the time. And you'll see stuff that we're against now. They'll do it in a way to eventually we'll accept it with open arms, and it's going to be normal. Like, everybody's going to have these Alexas in their house, you know. I enjoy it though. I enjoy it. Like, I can fight against it and get freaked out. I remember people thinking that back in the 70s there were microphones in your lamps. Like, all the lamps had microphones in them. Like, you can look up all this stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. If I hear some kind of device talking to me, I want to go at it with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
I don't like
I enjoy it at this point. I used to get freaked out by it, but
I don't want my car talking to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the driver.
You know what though? I think some of the studies are coming out that show a little bit differently though. But I think riding in a car that has cameras all the way around it and knows what's coming. I think it'd be safer doing that than driving next to some of these people who are texting while they're driving, having a conversation, and opening up a can of Pepsi while they're driving. Like, I think it would be, you know, a lot safer to be in some of these vehicles that drive themselves, these smart cars.
I'm okay with that, you know, up to a certain point. Like, it's going to take me some getting used to jumping in the car and not being behind the wheel. I'm going to be a nervous wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll probably get used to it, but what other direction is there to go in?
I know. That's where we're going. Like, we have to get used to it. That's the thing. I mean, we can try to fight against it. I don't think we can at this point, you know. I don't think we can. You know?
Technology, the only thing I don't like about technology is they develop these things, and then they just sort of spring it on you, but nobody's going to ask you if it's okay with you that they put this technology on the market.
Yeah. Well, people are going to want it. They're going to give you a little bit more, and then when it's time to implement the next thing, you're going to want it. Like I said, the whole Alexa thing. Like, if they would have gave us that 15 years ago, we would have freaked out. But now we're like, okay, my phone can listen to me. My phone can order me a pizza. My phone can do this and that. Now you have the Alexa that's just always on. You just say its name and tell it what you want it to do. Like, and that's insane. I could say, Alexa, play Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay, it just starts playing, and I got a speaker system and everything. I think it's neat. You can put it in your car, and like it's neat, but it has its own. I don't have anything to hide. Like, there was, when I was studying the Illuminati and secret societies and the Freemasons and all of this stuff, I was in a spooky place. Like, hey, they're listening, man. They're listening. So what? I don't have anything to hide. Like, I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be. I hope I ain't, unless you. It just depends on what they think is, though. So if we're talking about having knowledge and information about UFOs and contacting ETs, and then we're talking about that on open forums, then maybe that's something they don't want out. That's the kind of stuff I would be concerned with now, you know, targeted individuals and things like that. It opens up a whole nother realm of thinking, and we could do a whole episode on it, really.
Yeah, I mean, most artificial intelligence doesn't know how to respond to vulgar language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I was thinking about that. Like, my wife will cuss at Alexa sometimes, and it's like, what if it was like a real relationship with this device? What if it learned your personality and learned that if you show aggression and anger towards it, or towards whoever's running it or whatever, that thing could show anger and aggression back, right? That's the real AI that can, the artificial intelligence that can almost assimilate feelings and emotions and be there. You know, that they had that movie that came out, Her, where the dude had, it was Joaquin Phoenix who had the relationship pretty much with Alexa, his smartphone, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if these things become self-aware and you get pissed off at it, and if it gets pissed off back at you, it's just going to chop your head off. And it's not going to have remorse. It's not going to think twice.
Yeah, that's the thing about
killing machine.
Technology doesn't have feelings. You can do that and be okay with it, yeah.
Yeah, there's no remorse, there's no conscience. It kills you because, you pissed it off.
It's happening now. Maybe technology. I definitely know the video games are like some of like the video games are desensitizing people. Like, if you're playing Call of Duty and you spend 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 3 hours a day killing people and finding strategies on how to kill people, and then when it's time to go to the army, you've been doing this for years, killing people on these video games and seeing people get their heads blown off and stabbing people. And so something like the army, or it's time to go to war, like you're totally okay with that. You're desensitized to that from seeing it on television or playing the video games. It's almost like a prep.
Yeah.
It's like a prepping tool.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a guy named Jared Rand. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's sort of like a spokesperson on the forefront of introducing the new technologies. And he was saying that, people need to sort of, get together and start communicating again. And one of the things that he said really kind of struck me was that he said it's not going to happen on the website or on the internet, that people really have to get together and gather together in person.
There's some deep some deep revelations that people are getting with AI, transhumanism, merging with technology. Very interesting, man. Give people a way that they can contact you. They can check out your work if they want to learn some of the arts that you're teaching people with the divination of how to actually do this themselves, or if they want a reading from you. Tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, they can buy the dice at a place called puzzlewarehouse.com. It's like all one word. And they're called Campbell's Alphabet Dice. It's the Campbell's Alphabet Soup Company.
Oh, really?
They've been making these dice for like 50 years now. They've been.
Yeah.
It's a dice game. It's a dice game. Dice with letters on them. And this puzzlewarehouse.com will send you a box for like $13, and there's no shipping. Okay, so I'm on Facebook. They can get in touch with me there and set up a Skype or a Zoom. And I would prefer that they get in touch on Skype or Zoom first, because what happens is if they go out and they buy the dice and then get in touch with me later, what happens is they develop these expectations. And as a result of having expectations, they start doing a few readings and their expectations aren't met. And then they drop out and they lose interest. So I would prefer they get in touch with me first on Skype. They could even call me on the phone. That would be much better than, an email. And I can explain to them, don't have any expectations when you get these dice. I'll give you some ideas about what kind of questions to ask in the beginning. And, that's going to change. Like in time, you can start asking more specific personal questions and get into more detail later. But in the beginning, it's kind of a delicate process where you have to go about it. You have to do it a certain way is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, yep. If you're interested in that, make sure you guys hit him up. Check out some of his stuff. Check out some of his artwork as well. He's got some really cool stuff. Did you by any chance do the artwork that's behind you?
Yeah, these are some acrylic paintings that I did, and I got some pencil drawings up on the wall. I do colored pencil drawings. I do black and white pen and ink drawings. I do acrylic paintings like you see here, and I do some drip paintings using Tester's model paints.
Awesome. Looks really good. Ladies and gentlemen, check out his work. Jim Gerard, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me, Jim.
All right. It was a pleasure talking to you, and maybe we can do this again sometime.
Definitely. Sounds good, my brother. It was good to connect with you.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. God bless.
We'll see you.
Jim Gerard, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting, eclectic person, just like me, right? Just like all of us. It's cool. People hit me up all the time, wanting to come on the show. I have to I try to do a little bit of research and not, because I get people hit me up all the time, and some people are just like all over the place, and they're, oh my God, I get weird emails, put it that way. So Jim, this ended up being a good one. Jim hit me up, man, showed me his artwork. I was okay, let me check him out. I had a conversation with him and went back and forth with him several times. We tried to make the show work yesterday, but I had some stuff come up, and good thing we was able to reschedule today, because this episode turned out to be a really good episode, man. I know like a lot of things you hear from me, it's just I just repeat myself a lot, and I'm okay with that. Even in my music, like it's I'm just repeating myself. I'm not bringing anything new to the table. There's different ways to explain and discuss some of the things I've already stated. My mission hasn't changed. Like, everything's still the same. But I like to get other people's take on it. I like to get other people's points of view and perspective about these same things that we're talking about. Like, I'm talking about all spirituality just in general, but we talk about aliens, we talk about angels. Let's get somebody else's concept of them. It doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean that I'm wrong. People get mad that I don't fight to be right, and then fight to get the last word in and stuff like that. I don't I don't have that need. And I don't, because I used to have that need, right? When I was in Christianity, like I had to be right. You can't have a Christian, like all these Christian debates are nasty to me. I got friends who are getting into these debates and trying to prove theology, and and I've had some of them reach out to come on my show, like big names want to come on my show and use the platform to have a Christian debate and prove why they're right and this other guy's wrong. I'm like, no. Like, if you want to come on and tell your story, that's cool. We'll do that. But you want to come on here to debate people and prove why they're wrong and you're right, and no, that's nasty to me. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I graduated from that. I really did. I could say that. I graduated. You're still on that level. I'm not on that level anymore. I'll say that with confidence. It's not what it's about. Not to me. Some people think it is. It's not about that. To defend their faith and to prove their point. That's fine. You turned off people in the midst of that, and I hope it makes you feel better. I hope you feel more validated because you belittled me and my belief systems. You laughed at me, even on camera, right? I went on, somebody else's show. I'm not going to say no names, but if you guys follow me, you've seen the awkward interview that I recently did, and that person's going to come back on my show here soon. I don't want it to be awkward, but we're going to have an interesting conversation. But it works the same way, just like the Christians out here will turn their nose up at the New Agers or at the mystics, and you're a Gnostic and you practice mysticism and it's demonic. They'll turn their nose up and laugh at you and all this stuff. But the New Agers do it to me. Like when if I'm on a show and I mention Jesus, they'll laugh or think it's real primitive, and they're, you believe all the old concepts or whatever the case is, and they laugh at it. Listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. Listen to them talk about Jesus and make fun of the desert religions, is what they call it. Oh, you still follow the desert religions and all of this stuff, and they just poke fun of it and stuff. So it works both ways. Like, but I think it's a defense mechanism. Like, I think people do it because, I've been talking about this. You have to like belittle people to prove your point, or so that you would get the upper hand, right? You have to make somebody feel less than you. You take away their validation. And people who I've defended over the years, I have people reaching out to me and then going in on me and sending me messages and crazy stuff. And I don't really talk too much about it, because I try to keep the peace. I mean, I want to practice what I preach. So if I'm talking about how belittling people is only to make yourself look better, I'm going to try my best not to belittle people on here. Like, sometimes I know it just comes, but I try not to do it. So with that being said, we got some interesting shows coming up. I got a bunch of shows booked. I'm in this weird place because we're coming up on 100 episodes. So making our way to closing in on 100. I don't know where we're at now, probably late 80s, early 90s. So I want the 100th episode to be good. So I'm trying to get a good guest on here, somebody who would make it interesting and be somebody who would just make a good guest in general. So I'm not going to prolong it just to get a better guest on here, but we'll see. If you guys have anybody who you think would be a good guest on the show, who won't try to get on here and belittle me, I'm not gonna stand for that. Maybe some of it, Jordan Maxwell. My hat goes off to Jordan. Love him. I'll have him back on here soon again. So yeah, let's see. Check out all. So you guys who are listening on the podcast in right now. So I do these shows live, and we're on YouTube streaming live right now, and so we had the phone lines open. I always open the phone lines just to say I did. Sometimes people want to call. Some people want to call and say hello. People want to text me and all this stuff all day. I'm like, look, call me on the podcast. They want to tell me their stories. Like, call me on the podcast. Like, I'm definitely make myself open when I do this. So that's available. So you guys who are listening on the podcast end, if you want to catch a live show, we have the chat room going. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see the chat going on the side. People are hanging out. People are talking about my beard and how fat my beard is and how it's so awesome and I should put some anointing oil in it and stuff like that. So yeah, shout out to everybody holding it down. Binary Watcher, what's up, my brother? Indigo SETI, Hans Holtz, Tina, Christina Pollard, Stormy Days, Earth, Air, Fire, Water, Catherine Marsh, Edgar, what's up, my brother? Everybody holding it down in the chat room. I love you guys. Help me do this show live. So just want to say thank you guys for supporting. Everybody who is supporting my show and my work over at Patreon, patreon.com/truthseeker. There you guys can help me do this full time. I'm doing it. And if you guys want to see more episodes, if you get any value out of this, if you can even give $1 a month, man, $1 a month would go a long way. If everybody who listens to this show would give $1, would be awesome. But there's a lot of people who give a lot of money because they believe in the work that I'm doing here. And I thank you guys for believing in me. All of you people who've been doing it since day one, man, you guys are troopers, man. I appreciate you guys. Patreon.com/truthseeker. You get access to my new music. I'm working on some pretty cool stuff, if I say so myself. Album is going to be coming out 4/20, April 20th, and that's going to be entitled Seer. I'm almost done with it. I'll be doing like a pre-order and doing some videos and stuff like that to promote it. I'm excited about that. Staying busy with that. With that being said, also, if you become a patron, you get access to our Thursday night sessions. We do a Thursday night private session called the School of the Mystics, and this is just our hangout session where we get into prayer. We just are just there for one another. It's the community, man. This is like everybody hanging out in the chat rooms, everybody on the chat rooms on Patreon and the boards there. We just get it in. We have open discussion. We're candid with one another. If we're going through some stuff, we need somebody to talk to. Thursday night, School of the Mystics. We'll get into some activation, get into some deep teachings as well. But essentially, it's just there so we can be there for one another. Like, I got stuff I'm dealing with as well, and I want to talk to you guys about it. You know what I'm saying? I want to have trust with people there. It's not recorded. It's not broadcasted. Some people want me to record it because they're not able to listen live, but I don't want, you know, it's confidential too, because I want people not to have any fear about, you know, stuff that they say there. You know what I'm saying? So Thursday nights, School of the Mystics, patreon.com/truthseeker. You can support me there. Jason Lewis, what's up, my brother? Good artist there. HDTV is holding us down. Set up a page where others can donate by mining for you. Okay. I'm still not 100% on that Bitcoin stuff, man. Yeah, but no, I've had people, you know, people who want to hook me up on Bitcoin and stuff. I don't know much about it. Definitely should have invested in it when it was really low, whatever it is, you know. I mean, take a chance, right? Live a little. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed this conversation. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe on everything I have. Type in Truth Seeker, subscribe on it. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, the podcast. I'm on Apple Podcast. I'm on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. A lot of people are finding me out because I'm on Spotify. Like, that's a big way a lot of people are finding me. I think they're typing in Esoteric Podcast and my show's coming up. So go to Spotify and check it out there too. So Binary Watcher, he says Bitcoin crashes next month. Probably, bro. Probably. So with that, I'm gonna say peace and shalom. I love each and every one of you guys. Peace.
Your will so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the Truth Seeker podcast, head over to truthseeker.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/truthseeker.